somebody came up with in order to justify their funding formula. That's how they based it on. They said, this is a number it's going to cost you. If you can do it for less, which we do, you know,
And
that's
our
fine.
test scores are higher than those that spend a lot more.
And it's not even just the test scores, it's everything in general. It's if you're spending a little over $11,000 per student at the high school level, and Mountain Lakes is spending $14,000 to $16,000 per student, and still charging entrance fees for sports, still charging to be in the school play, still charging to buy costumes for this and for
In the
that.
marching band.
Exactly.
Some
And
of
we
the
don't-
schools are charging $800 per kid.
Right.
to
We're
be in the marching
charging-
band.
We're charging what we need to educate the students, and we're still doing a very good job of it. No student is going without. They don't pay a fee to be in sports. They don't pay a fee to be in the marching band, to be in anything. We provide everything for them. So why can Dover do it? Because of good budgeting process. It's good budgeting. And again, I can't say this enough. It is not something that just started this year. It's a process. When we first came on the board, this was not the case. The district was close to being taken over for failing grades, for failing facilities. The facilities were leaking. They were in ruin. Classrooms were overcrowded. Equipment was in disrepair, and students were not achieving. And it was the attitude that, well, it's just over. It's just over. You know, this is, and that changed. That changed over the past 15, 16 years, and I'm very proud of that. As you could see in the presentation, just that Hamilton Field, just that in itself was a tremendous achievement that we were told it could not be done. It could not be done.
That took quite a few years. Remember, it would be, we'd want to do it, oh, can we finally do Hamilton Fields? No, we can't do it this year.
Can't do it yet. Can't, maybe next year we'll get it.
Finally, it came about.
Where other districts may just take all of the money out at one shot, have it all done at one shot, but then they're in debt. They're in debt, and that's the problem. We're trying not to leave debt for future of Dover, because we don't know what we're getting in.
It also lowers the amount of money we have to spend because we're not paying interest.
Exactly. Exactly. So
this budget is the peak of spending of the spending per student, short of what the state proposes, with the money that we have without raising taxes. If we wanted to spend more per student, we would need to raise taxes.
Well, we are right, we're $35.
We are raising
It's being raised, it's actually being raised.
right.
Okay.
Maybe you
So-
could clarify a little, you could raise money, additional money. We could charge more if we use additional caps, spending caps. But we still are they allow you to exceed the 2%, but, you know, really the 2%, we are at about the maximum we can charge. And the confusion comes in because we are spending less than the foundation aid is recommended, and that's what's called the income disparity gap. Because even we can never possibly reach what they say because we're capped. We would have to spend, how much, 19% more to reach what they say the cap should be, and of course that'd be illegal because we've exceeded their parameters.
Right.
It's a real catch-22, which is why they're looking at a complete revision of the funding formula, which I think might be beneficial.
And not to point the finger at the town or anything, but what we do completely benefits the town's budget. Because if we were at more than half, which at one point we were, we were more than half of the budget back in those days. If we were there again, well, then what would the town do? Because the town, as you can see, the town taxes keep going up. Last year we had a reduction in school tax of $100.33 per household.
Nobody's tax bill.
But
Nobody noticed.
Tax bill went down.
Yeah.
Tax bill went down, so the town absorbed that. They used that reduction. They don't have to announce that they're doing that. They just absorbed it. They used that reduction.
Because of the shared COA?
Well, the money comes into the town of Dover
We cut 100, they raised
through the
100.
taxes. So they raised it 100, so it absorbed it, you don't get to see it. But with the town's taxes creeping up, and we are becoming lower, we're actually aiding the town, because still, every homeowner still is paying in the average of $5,000 to $6,000 a year in property taxes and school taxes combined, somewhere between 5 and 6, and some people owe much higher if they have bigger pieces of property.
Sure.
But there are those families with their single-family homes that's their range. They can't afford more than that, because then they would be living someplace else besides Dover. So we are aiding the entire town.
And I had a neighbor that moved into the neighborhood like 6 months ago, that they lived in Chatham, and they retired, and they were able to retire because they were going from $20,000 a year in taxes to $7,000 in Dover, and in a really nice neighborhood, and very pleased that they made the move.
Wow.
So that's a good story. People are paying over $1,000 a month just in taxes.
I think you saw in the one slide, I think the average town in Morris County, about $6,000 goes to their school taxes. So.
And we are at
2,400.
2,400. And still in beautiful facilities, still with impeccable services, students sitting at new desks, new books, iPads, equipment, technology. We keep adding every year. It's remarkable when you think about it. Again, our budget went down, we're adding programs. It's remarkable, it really is. The world should be able to do this.
Makes you wonder what they're doing with the money.
Right, you should be able to go to the store with your $4 and get 4 gallons of milk instead of 1 gallon of milk, but it doesn't happen. Right. Any other questions?
No, thank you. That was very, very helpful, the presentation and the question and answer.
Very good, and thank you again for the budget presentation. Thank you,
Yes,
Kathy,
yes.
Mr. Becker, Ms. Schoonmaker, thank you very much, and
Mr.
Mr. Pollock.
Pollock.
And Mr. Pollock.
And
Thank
Mr.
you very
Franks.
much. Any other questions from any other board members?
I do, I have
Yes,
two.
go ahead.
And one I think I probably should know the answer to, and the other one I'm not sure if now would be the time that you would answer it, but because you're talking about there's such significant cuts from the state, do we, I guess as a district, do we apply or have the ability to apply for like private grants, or like if we wanted to do something and then apply for that? Is that something that we already do now, or?
We do, I'll let Mr. Becker answer that, we do.
One example is Academy Street School. We were meeting with some folks from Bayer Pharmaceutical, and Academy, one of the kindergarten teachers happened to mention they would like to start a program with young scientists in their kindergarten. And, we had the opportunity to speak with Bayer, so now every year when we have our junior scientist program, Bayer Pharmaceuticals supplies all the scientists. They come out, they give the kids white lab coats, they do their experiments, the families are there, they bring in pizza. It's a wonderful night and a wonderful opportunity. I feel like that's something that's totally reimbursed in the
So
private
that's,
sector.
is that on a per school basis? So like you said, that's at Academy Street?
That's at Academy
Like, I don't-
Street.
So
Uh,
if say they wanted to do that same thing at East Dover, just say, because that's where my daughter goes, would a person from East Dover then need to contact them, or would it just kind of be under one umbrella?
Yeah, we have to be careful because we don't want to overdo, I mean.
Right,
We
yeah, I
have one school and
understand
then we
that.
have four schools asking. But like, it varies in building. A lot of times we try to get programs implemented in multiple sites. Home Depot, for example, goes to North Dover. They have a great program where they bring their employees in, the kids make their projects. Home Depot is also going to Cycle Route, and they're constructing flower beds and flower boxes for the kids, and they're doing all this planning, and they're donating the supervision and all the materials for it.
So is that something that, like, the teachers research, or like who?
Sometimes it's teachers, sometimes it's us. I think a lot of times the connections that we have are beneficial, but a lot of times it's driven from the teachers also. It's across the board. I'm trying to think of the other.
What about Picatinny? Remember the shooting the rockets up?
Yeah, they
That
have a
would
junior
be-
scientist at
yeah.
Eastover.
Yeah.
Costco bought book bags for all our schools this year for a lot of the primary kids who may not have had a book bag or got to school ready.
Isn't the paper mill that would sort of be part of it, where they adopted our
Fine and
Fine and Performing Arts Academy, and they're going to see all 5 shows, and they're getting instruction down there at the paper mill.
Yeah, so
That's-
it's across the board, it's a variety of,
And then my second question, it had mentioned Title I cuts. And I know, I'm pretty sure, that some of the tutoring, after-school tutoring, is funded by that. So is there a plan, or is it too early, on how, if you'll be able to continue offering that, if they're going to be cutting your Title I funding, and that's something that
That's a good
supports
I
that?
can't give you a firm answer. The reason is because right now they're telling us a projected 20% cut, which is like the $300,000. But we have to look and see, are there other ways we can offset some of those expenses to continue the after-school program? Our goal is to try to do it.
Right.
Mr. Bullock works very closely with the feds, and we are hopeful that even though they're cutting the formula for how much will be coming through, the fact that we have more students, and we're also one of the first school-wide programs, we're hopefully that we can use that money to offset some of the losses. And even in terms of staff, much of the Title I is paying for, like if you're going to reduce class size by hiring a teacher, many of our teachers are actually employed by Title I. So when people say, well, if the feds don't give us the money, what does it matter? It matters a lot.
You'll see, we get a list of the teachers that are paid under Title I, and we approve that as that report has to go in. And there have been other collaborations even for tutoring. I remember there was a Saturday program that New Jersey Natural Gas donated some money to pay for. So when we lack in one area, we certainly do. I know that our teachers do a really good job, as do the administrators as well. They're always searching for something, and we do. We win quite a few awards, grant awards, so that's helpful.
And
Even
it's-
pharmaceutical company that Mr.
Albert.
Yes, yes.
Yes, Novartis, yes, with the
Mentoring.
art show
And the
everything,
mentoring,
yeah.
the student mentoring through Novartis too. Yeah, definitely. Any others?
Nope, that's it.
We're just taking right now questions from the board, and then we're going to move on to the public in a moment. Any other questions from the board? Very good. Okay, so we had a motion, we had a second, we had our discussion. Did you want to read the rest of?
Well, no, I don't, I mean, it's ads listed, which everybody read
Okay,
already.
and we're going
There's
down
nothing,
through
yeah, through H.
through H on page 3.
And of course, on what,
G.
what is it?
G.
Yeah, G is what, you see that this, we vote on this now. This is the monthly expense that we receive, the monies that we receive from the town that I was talking about before.
Okay.
Madam
Yes.
President, I just have a clarifying question on E.
Mhm.
So these are the maximums, legal,
Correct.
audit, physician. So it doesn't, are we projecting that we'll spend, for example, $51,495 on legal? Or that's the most we're allowed to spend?
That's the most that we're approving, yes.
Okay.
Maximum, which we fall below on some things, where did I see? Above that, in travel, we actually fell far below, correct?
And also, as far as the budget goes, like, we'll find, it's a process too, because there will be changes. We might get more money in. Well, then, as a board, we learn about it, and then we vote to accept those funds, and that can happen. Another thing that's probably gonna happen is in a couple months, what is that, the June payment or the June payment from the state? They'll decide, they don't give us the payment. They
They'll just
haven't given us
delay
the payment, they delay it. And I don't know if we really ever get it, because it never seems that we ever fully get it. But this has been going on, what, for about 10 years now? Where they say, no, we're not gonna give you the June payment. And that's how that works. But you'll see, it's gonna be a process where will be alerted to information that, well, we're getting these funds, or whatever.
And you'll see, I think you were
So-
trying to say, you'll see line item transfers as the year
Yes.
goes on. For example, if it's a very mild winter and what we budgeted for utilities is less than what it actually comes to, once we can transfer for that to perhaps another line where there was a little bit more. Maybe we paid more in gasoline for the buses, but we paid less in electric. So we can, and that's limited. We
Right.
can only transfer one line to a different line. That's all of the budgeting magic that goes on.
Right. Well, it's a work in progress.
It is. Okay, so we're moving still through H on page 3. Roll call, is that what we're going to do, the roll call? Yep.
Ms. Dodd?
Yes.
Ms. Rosario?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes?
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Mr. Scarnio?
Yes.
Mrs. Mullen? Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Ruiz?
Yes.
Mrs. Shower?
Yes, very good, and thank you again very much, everyone. Okay, on to personnel, Mr. Miller.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the staff and extra service appointments for 2016-17, and we have items 1 through 6.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any questions or comments?
I have some questions about resignation, but they may not be appropriate right now. I'm not sure. I guess I can ask one that I think is appropriate right now. Do we know how many, if more than this, how many teachers have resigned this year?
The grand total amount? I don't know that we know that.
It's not many.
Yeah, he's saying many that we voted on, not many.
No.
As far as I know, this is the only one I've seen, but I don't know that I was,
There were some others.
There was like
Not many, yeah.
But they like plan ahead for when they're going to, there's like a time.
At the beginning of the school year, there were several that took the job and then did not realize that they had so much work to do and resigned immediately. So we did have, at the beginning of the school year, did we have 3?
2 or 3.
2 or 3 that
I
were
wanna
right
say
at the
2 or
beginning
3
of the school
total,
year.
yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't think we had many.
is that
since then.
common, that a teacher would take a position and not understand the workload?
Well, in these days and
No.
times, and a lot of times too, a teacher who perhaps has been in a private school comes to a public situation and says, oh, reports, I have to do reports, I have to do student growth objective reports, I have to do this, I have to do that, I didn't have to do that in my other school, and then they said this is too much work or too much responsibility, and then that's it. And I think in those situations, that's basically what happened.
I think some of
They
them
can get
also
overwhelmed.
have put out several feelers.
Exactly, and perhaps get a better offer. It could be.
Closer location. The
Right.
home may have popped up, somebody may.
There was
have
one
offered
of
a
them
little
that
more
that
money,
was the situation, they got closer to home,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
So they changed their mind.
It never was very common. Now it's becoming more and more common, especially for employees that you hire midsummer, because many will keep, especially if you're in a high-demand area. If you're a chemistry teacher or mathematics teacher, quite often they'll continue looking, and if a better opportunity in terms of more money or something like that comes up, they take it. I don't like it, but I don't blame them.
And are we given time? There's union contracts, right? So we have to be given time to find that teacher's replacement?
Well,
Yes,
And
60
we were
days
given that
notice.
time? I wasn't clear if we were given the time or not.
60 days notice is the traditional, but sometimes there are extenuating circumstances that we come to a common agreement.
Okay, thank you.
okay, any other questions? Alrighty then, roll call please.
Okay. Ms. Dodd?
Yes.
Ms. Rosario?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Mr. Scarnio?
Yes.
Mrs. Mullen?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Ruiz?
Yes.
Mrs. Shower?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Community Relations, Ms. Rosario.
Motion, the board recommends approval as requested for the following list below. This constitutes the second reading with the first reading having been accomplished at the April 4, 2017 meeting.
Second.
And it's as follows.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Again, this is the second reading. A lot of these changes were. So any questions, comments about all of the reading that we did? Everybody's good?
Just
Okay.
the
Yes.
new case law from the Supreme Court doesn't affect us, is that correct? Since New Jersey was already operating at the higher standard? Because there's so many policies on special ed. So these are in line?
I'm assuming these are the
Yes.
latest,
Yeah,
correct?
these are the latest.
They may change tomorrow.
They'll be modifying as new decisions come through.
It could be modified tomorrow. It could be as it comes through. Thank you, Linda. Okay, roll call then, please.
Ms. Dodd?
Yes.
Ms. Rosario?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Mr. Scarnio?
Yes,
Mrs. Mullen?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Ruiz?
Yes.
Mrs. Shower?
Yes. Thank you very much, Ms. Rosario. Back again to budget and finance.
Okay, I
Ms. Laurie.
move we approve and/or adopt the following resolutions as listed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. And we're going all the way through page 6, item number 4. Any questions or comments, anyone? Okay, very good. Roll call, please.
Ms. Dodd?
Yes.
Ms. Rosario?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Mr. Scarnio?
yes,
Mrs. Mullen?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Ruiz?
Yes.
Mrs. Shower?
Yes. Very good. Thank you very much, Ms. Laurie. And back to new business. Again, we have our rolling calendar. Our next meeting, May 9th, is the Committee of the Whole, and then a regular session on May 30th. Again, Committee on the Whole. I can't believe we're saying June already. I really can't. This year has just flown by. And then June 27th, the Academic Achievement Recognition Dinner on June 8th. I think we've responded to that already. And tomorrow evening, we have at the Manor in Mountain Lakes, we have our county meeting where Mr. Mike Scarnio will be receiving his accolades for his certified board leader from New Jersey School Boards. That's fabulous, from the county. Will be there also. So there are members that are attending. If you'd like to attend, this was opened up to the full board to attend, but we do have to register because this is they do have dinner there. So please let Ms. Jenish know if you're going to. So, did you make reservations?
No, I'm gonna ask a question here.
Oh, okay, very good. Well, that's the last that we had from new business, and I know I had just opened your email as we sat down to have our photo taken, and I did forward it on to you in reference to convention.
Okay.
Ms. Ruiz already has some ideas about what she'd like to do, so.
Thank you, Madam President.
Yep.
Thank you, Kathy.
And then we'll be voting on that for board members that are going to be attending at a later date, once everyone
Sure.
makes those plans. Okay, yes, Ms.
When
Mullen.
we're talking about calendar, I was wondering if we could have the graduation date. Do you know what that is?
Is it the 20, oh God, no. What is it, the 23rd? 22nd, 23rd? Oh, it's not, is it?
We'll get it to you.
And our awards is June 6th, the scholarship awards is June 6th?
It's June, yeah, it's
You know
June,
what, why don't we,
it is June 6th.
Okay. I was just.
Why don't we get a full calendar with all the dates out
There's so
to you?
many things happening.
Yeah.
To get them all written down.
I think
Someone was asking
next
about-
month, we're about 3 a week.
Yeah.
So we'll do a complete packet on an actual calendar. I
Thank
think
you,
it'll be easier to
thank you.
read.
I was on
And
the
for the-
website today
Maybe I can
looking at
keep
all
it
this
then.
stuff.
Yes. And for the new board members who are going to be attending graduation and perhaps handing out diplomas, make sure that you get in touch with Ms. Jenish so that she can get your measurements, your height and whatnot for your cap and gown, so that we make sure that those fit properly.
Oh my God. I'm gonna need 3 boxes of tissues.
Yeah, it's a great time. It's a great time. Okay, anything else from board members before we move on to the public? Very good. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you for your patience, public. I hope you enjoyed our presentation of the budget. Again, we'll open it up to the public for 3 minutes per person, for a grand total of 30. And if you'd like to stand and state your name and address, please, we'd love to speak to you.
Cheryl Colligan, I'm the middle school French teacher. I had a few announcements to make, but I was wondering if I might also pose 2 questions about the budget as a faculty member. May I? Thank you. In reviewing the budget, I'm looking at, I guess it's the 3rd page, and I noticed that the anticipated budget for school-sponsored co-extracurricular activities has actually been decreased approximately 20%, 22%, from 175,000 to 136,000. So I'm wondering if you could elaborate or clarify for me, please, which activities would be affected by that decrease?
Okay, we're going to answer all the questions once everyone's asked.
Okay, and then another question I had too, in looking at the, again, same page, it says the staff training, and I'm assuming that's professional development, not sure of the wording as it's presented in the budget, but it's next year it's budgeted at $95,200. I see the actual budget for 2015-16 was $38,000. So I'm wondering what the disparity is between those 2 numbers. Is it because less money has been spent on offering professional training in terms of getting an outside vendor into the school, or have there been less applications from teachers going to professional development sessions outside of the school district? Because that's an enormous disparity, $38,000 spent, when in fact we're projecting, closer to $100,000.
Okay, thank you.
And I had some.
And your announcements?
May I make some announcements from middle school?
Sure.
Great, thank you. Firstly, and I'm not sure if I'll announce at the last meeting, but this Thursday is the presentation of the Optical Academy in Dover. The DEA, which is the Dover Education Association, the teachers union basically, has rented space at the Joseph Connolly Center, which is on Essex Street in Dover, and we're hosting an Optical Academy wherein students and their family members, and frankly any member of the Dover Victor Gardens group, may come in for a discounted eye exam and discounted eyewear. So, for example, the glasses are priced around $29. That's how it has been expressed to me. So it is really a unique and tremendous opportunity for anyone who's on a budget and so forth, as we all are, to come in, including grandparents. It's not just for students. The invitation is extended to all members of this community, but of course we're focusing on the students. We did send home flyers and Friday folders and whatever. Oh, great, super. Appointments are recommended. However, anyone may drop in. That's between 3:30 and 7 o'clock this Thursday. And the other thing...
And not to interrupt you, I have about like 30 seconds
of
your time left.
Okay. All right. I have spoken in the past about our forensics group, which is under the direction of Julie Daly. She's one of our teachers, our ELA teachers at the middle school. And once again, they have succeeded and taken home many prizes. They were in a competition on Friday. So the students and the teacher, Julie Daly, came in during their vacation to compete against 6 other schools at the Montville High School. So if I may just mention the names of our top winners.
Well, that is on our Facebook.
It's on our Facebook page.
Oh,
Yeah, it's fabulous.
Okay,
Yeah.
I saw it. Okay, would you like to hear the names again for anyone who didn't review it?
If we can do it real quick.
I'll try. Alexia Doan, she was the big winner as is described here, first place overall in original oratory. Maggie Cassiano, whose mom, Dr. Krista Sainer, is here today, first place overall in improvisational acting and second in prose reading. Angela Chisholm, first place overall in prose reading and third overall in improvisational acting. Ahmed Saeed, first place overall in impromptu speaking. Sela Mitchell, second place overall in declamation and third place overall in improvisational acting. And Teddy Perez. Teddy's a 7th grader, you're in second place overall in impromptu speaking. And there were others as well, but they did a great job.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Thank you for letting me share that.
Yes, and if you have not checked out our Facebook page, it's Dover Public Schools on Facebook. We are announcing all of these great achievements by the kids. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. So that's great. Thank you very much. Yes, who's next?
Okay, me, Monica Palastis, 393 West Blackwell Street. I just wanted to say, don't start timing me yet, because I just wanted to compliment the page with all of the students. It was great to see the faces of all of our young kids and read about some of the things that they've been doing. I mean, it's just really great to see that. Okay, now I'm starting, but it's just questions. Thank you for the budget presentation. Will you be putting on the website, okay, so I have a number of questions. Will you be putting on the website the user-friendly budget so that, yes, okay, that's what I, okay.
Quick, yes.
The second is, I heard a lot of, you talked about how the budget is really goal-driven. It's goal-driven by the board, it's goal-driven in terms of how you make the determinations of where you're going to put certain money. Do you have written goals for the district? Where can I find them? Because I really would like to see them in terms of, like, what has this board prioritized in terms of what they'd like to see over the next few years? So I just want to know where the district goals are written. The next has to do with the demographic study. According to the slides we saw tonight, we are looking at an increase of 80 students, and Ms. Ruiz mentioned also that we might be getting more from the new, whatever the department thing is, development that's going up. So I just wondered whether the board was considering doing an updated demographic study so that we know what it is that we can anticipate. I'm so sorry for so many questions. A quick one about the reading program. I just wondered whether the reading program that we're using in the lower grades is data and assessment driven. In other words, there are like some reading programs like DRA, which is diagnostic reading assessment, so you really can benchmark where the kids are. And I just wondered whether that curriculum was that type of curriculum. And then I think this was answered. The Mine Hill tuition, the 4% that we received from Mine Hill was included in this budget as anticipated revenue, correct? Okay, and that's it. And I guess, oh, and then the last one was just, have we responded to the Mine Hill petition yet? I don't know whether the deadline is up. And that's it for my 1,000 questions.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Krista Snainer, 16 Greenwood Avenue. I wanted to reiterate, I was also interested in the two issues that Mrs. Culligan brought up regarding the disparity, the decrease in extracurricular spending and the increase in staff training. I had an additional issue that is not budget related. There is I don't know if any of you are aware of it, this is a middle school issue apparently. There is a book called 13 Reasons Why, and it is all anybody at the middle school is talking about. The book is, and you can find out more about it online, there's a lot being written about it. The basic premise is a girl commits suicide because of 13 reasons, people that impacted her. The book, which by Common Sense Media is rated 14 and above, was made into a Netflix miniseries, which was 16 and above. And I was ignorant and didn't know anything about it until some friends, hey, FYI. Are we doing anything to address this? Because my child is not being allowed to watch that show. We are going to allow her to read the book and talk about it, but I know that there are many children. Actually, we were at a book club at the library this afternoon, and it came up that several of the children there had read and or watched, and I asked the question, did you talk to anybody? Because quite frankly, when I read the description of the TV miniseries, I didn't want to watch it as an adult. And so I'm concerned that many of our middle school kids, and maybe even lower, 5th and 6th graders, are watching this, and is there a plan in place to address the issues, or just have conversations maybe in a health or phys ed class or wherever with some trained professionals that are capable of facilitating that in an appropriate way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Moore, yes.
I have more of a statement or possibly a concern.
If you could just give your name and address again, I'm sorry.
Michael Moore, Washington Avenue, Victory Gardens. I'm a student in the school. And my concern is with a couple of the disciplinary actions that a few students have been getting And I know when you get suspensions or certain things like that, I'm pretty sure this follows you into the next level into college. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I think it does. But if it does, there was an incident where a kid was suspended, and it was basically pretty much on suspicion. And I really don't think that was fair to the child, being that he was suspended from school, and if it follows him, then that's obviously something negative. And this is a kid who has very minimal to no disciplinary action throughout his high school tenure. So, you know, he doesn't fit the standard of whatever you want to call it, you know, a disruptive child. So there's also been with some other situations of disciplinary actions that don't seem exactly just to me. Of course, I'm just a parent of one of the students, not even one who's having disciplinary actions put on him. I'm not in the school seeing what the child is doing to warrant these. All I'm doing is collecting information from different people, resources, and it seems like it's all coming back as disciplinary actions are not just. So maybe we need to look into that. Maybe we look into policy of maybe instead of like a suspension or a more serious act, maybe it could be like a detention. Maybe it could be handled with a meeting, especially if the kid is not what you want to call a repeat, you know, a person who repetitively or has the history of such act. So that's an issue that I personally have, and to keep it 100, it just seems like it's minority kids. So, I mean, maybe that's something, you know, Mr. Becker, Mr. Franks, Macaulay, whoever has to sit down and talk to themselves about. But for me, listening and looking, just doesn't seem right. So,
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Anyone else from the public? Yes, in the back.
Christy Hughes, 228-46 Mine Hill. I just wanted to say that I heard from a couple of students that there was a threat on the school the day before Good Friday, and I was just wondering why none of the parents were informed.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Yes.
Diana Rizales, Orange Drive. I have several questions, so really quickly, I wanted to actually ask about the resignations as well. And I assume we cannot know the reason why the resignations, but I'm wondering if you as, I don't know if you have an HR department or anything like that. I don't know when it comes to staffing, but I'm wondering, is there anything in regards to exit interviews? I don't know if you know what that is, but that would be something as for getting feedback and kind of what's going on or why is it going on. I can relate. I supervise a lot of people too, and it's that trend that you were talking about, Mr. Becker, that they're coming and leaving really quickly is happening more and more and more. So as a parent, I would love for you guys to have that information of why are we going? Is it because I can't commit or is it something else? So my suggestion would be to embrace that if you could. Regarding the budget, I wanted to know if it's public access, the draft before here, if it's something that can be seen by people who are not familiar, who need more time. And yes, I know the agenda is available during the day, but I'm wondering if the budget is something that's public before it actually is before the first reading or after the first reading before this stage, the second reading, where it's actually a done deal. And also at the end of the school or at the end of the budget year, are the expenditures available to the public? Well, this is what you're proposing in the budget, but really what happened, where did we actually spend money? Is that also available for the public? And I wanted to reiterate what Dr. Senior was talking about. I don't know if you know, I am a licensed clinical social worker, and the 13 Reasons Why has become huge. I work very locally, and as I think I've said before, I've tried to get into the schools again after many years, and have not had the best luck, honestly, as a social worker to get in here. And I actually have an article specifically on that, with that, so if you're interested, I'm more than happy to forward it to your guidance counselor department. But it's a big thing. It's impacting a lot of kids, especially kids who are minorities and who have had that in their history. So again, I offer my, if you need any guidance and for us to come as a company and as a parent to do presentation, I'm more than willing to do it. Okay?
30.
Thank you. Beat ya.
Very good, thank you very much, thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay, seeing no one else, I'm going to close the public portion in at this time. Mr. Becker, did you have any responses for anything that you wanted to add?
Sure, 13 Reasons Why is huge. We'll have a letter going out on that tomorrow. Dr. Sainer, I'm answering your question.
I apologize. I pronounced her name wrong. Thank you.
We're very concerned about it because in my mind, suicide and the target audience we're very, very concerned about. So we'll have some outreach to the parents tomorrow. I have been talking to other superintendents today to try to, so we're all approaching this in a cohesive manner. Some are choosing not to do anything, others are choosing to do a great deal. What I want to do is at least have the first reach out to the parents to let them know this is going on. Please, start monitoring your child.
Pay attention to what they're doing at home.
Yeah, and because I'm very, very concerned. I don't like it for the average child, but for children who may have deep-seated issues, I just feel like it's playing with fire, and I really have no respect for how this is being done by the commercial entities. They're sending out a study guide for students at the end of the series. Well, that doesn't really help. So we will be addressing that. Exit interviews, we do that. Sometimes there are unique circumstances, and the problem that I have right now is I can't discuss them. Wish I could, but I can't.
That's respectful.
But I can't say anything more about it. I don't know what I can say.
But I'm hoping that with the exit interviews, you get the feedback and change anything that you need to, if
We know exactly why people are leaving. We do have that conversation. And many times it's an extremely friendly dialogue. Many times it has to do with issues not involving directly the school. And I think the field in education now is extremely rough for teachers because I think there's a lot of concern, with the testing and it used to be a field you could go into, you were going to make less money, but you had some stability. And there's some concern over that eroding right now. And there are also times that we recommend that a person might choose to go with this immediately too. So it's a whole complex deal of different reasons, but we do track it. For everybody, I like to meet with actually every person, ask why, and get their feedback. I don't always meet with every person and get their feedback, but quite often the supervisor will tell us why, and we'll get the rationale for it. A very good thing in terms of the money for professional development and staff training. That's heavily influenced by Title IIA. So even though a budget line may open up with $39,000 in it, which it did last year for that line then bounced up to $104,950 because as we achieved additional federal monies for it, we put that money into the professional development line. So that explains how that's going to be a moving target that's going to be evolving constantly right now, especially not knowing how our federal funding is going to be. But at this point in time, there's no intention of reducing any professional development or extra service activity.
Could I ask a question about that, Mr. Becker? Would something like the startup of a new program, for example, when the HIV program started, and there was additional funding from the state for that funneled into that line item, correct?
Absolutely.
And then when that either dwindled down or you meet your requirement and you've done your training and it dwindles down, then it changes, so it comes back out of that. And that's why a lot of times you'll see people questioning, why isn't Dover getting involved in this program? I understand there's funding for it. Why aren't you getting involved with this program? And we sometimes hesitate to do that because the funding is not guaranteed. It dwindles down, and then when it dwindles down, we have the deficit of either trying to make it up from someplace else. So I just wanted to add that.
No, that's great. And we continue to do things that are rather unique. I think they're unique. I really don't know. Maybe it's commonplace now. But like the reading series, we offer a training program in the summer. So our staff can come and they can actually go through all their training and be prepared so that come September, they can actually start running with the system. What many districts do is actually start the training after the beginning of the school year. So we do as much as we can to try to proactively get that going. We have SAMR during the summer. What we were able to get a grant a couple of years ago that was outstanding because we were able to pay teachers to come in the morning and do tutoring, and they were also paid to stay in the afternoon and have professional development activities. So that's always evolving, but the actual outlay is projected to be stable in terms of teacher training. One thing that's unique about Dover that you don't find in a lot of school districts, we don't have a cap on professional training. So in a lot of places, if you want to take graduate courses, they have X amount of money. When you use it, I'm sorry, it's gone. And what we've always done is move heaven and earth to make sure that the staff who apply for professional development or more education, we don't put limits on them because we feel that benefits not only the individual but the district. So it's actually quite a generous setup in compared to other issues. Optical Academy, we did send out the flyers on that to all the students. So we're glad to assist the DEA with that goal. Thank you, Ms. Blesses, for enjoying the website. That's nice. We're very proud of it. We're getting tremendous amount. Our community, there seems to be a hunger for more positive news. And I think this is filling that gap by saying, okay, this is what we're doing. You know, as we said, it's easy to criticize, condemn, and complain. That's a Dale Carnegie quote. But to actually come up with proactive, and I think by showcasing our teachers that are actually being proactive, it's good for the district, it's good for the parents, and it's great for the students. In terms of the two items that came up about suspension and threat, I respectfully ask you to meet with Mr. Franks and review the procedures that were used. He's right here. You can make an appointment to come and see him. That'll be okay, because I don't think we really can discuss suspension of another student.
That's correct.
And I don't think we can really discuss the background of different challenges that we have, but I'm sure if there was a private conversation, you'd be able to get a lot of the information that you so desire. Am I missing anything there? I think we got most of them.
Took out some money,
Was it extracurricular?
Oh, yeah, that extracurricular, that'll be stable, and some of the extracurricular money that we did take out was a bookkeeping thing. Like, we took out the tennis club because we don't have a tennis club, so why earmark money for a tennis club if we no longer have a coach to do it? So things like that we did clean up. But there really hasn't been a cut, I believe, in any of the extracurriculars, but it may be within other lines. A good example for that is the Orton summer training program. Now that's not included within our standard staff training line. That's a separate line that we put together to enable our special ed teachers to receive more intensive training and certification in Orton, which is something to my mind is way overdue.
Very good.
We did it? Okay.
I just have a follow-up question, Mr. Becker.
Mhm.
Do we have a, I presume we do, if a parent is displeased with, or disagrees with a disciplinary action, is there a process or is there a policy for what that parent may do to, I mean, is it just call the principal that doled out the discipline and have a discussion, or?
Yeah, actually, you know, the person who had the discipline, there should be a meeting, it should be discussed. If the parent disagrees, then they should go to the principal. Mm-hmm. If the principal, if there's still a disagreement at that point, they would come to my office and we would listen and make our own independent judgment, which we do pretty well. I think the caution is that whenever we bring these issues up, we have to be sure that we have the facts behind them. Like the sex of the teacher, who did the investigation, the sex of the victim. Because if we go ahead and rush to post issues that are not accurate in terms of the facts, at times the facts are helpful. in reaching the decision. And I think we have to be very cognizant, and I think that's where conversation, not on camera, but with the building principal in terms of what happened and why did this happen and what were the circumstances. I think they will offer that to the greatest degree possible, but there is a problem when the child, you can't really discuss a child with another parent. And so that really becomes, because you would like to, get out all the facts, but at times you can't. And one of the problems is many times parents may not choose to have their child listed either at a meeting or on the internet with a situation they had, because there may be things that are not commonly known. So we have to preserve not the security as much, but the safety and confidentiality of each student and not turn them into a double victim. Even if we have a situation with another school, do we ask whether that child wants everything to be made public before we went ahead full bore? Or do we go ahead and just assume that the cause is more important than the facts? So my recommendation is just we need the communication going, where I hope and we'll do everything we can to make sure parents feel comfortable to come in and speak with the principal. In this case, it was the vice principal. The principal wasn't involved at all. And the nice thing about when that happens is then they can go to the principal and say, wait a minute, this isn't correct. But quite often there are a lot of different shades, and the problem that I have, unless you have it, earn your money. I don't know how to deal with that when it's a third-party issue.
In terms of, student confidentiality and pupil records, obviously specifics cannot be discussed. And obviously another parent cannot have a discussion about another student.
When there is an issue with a student, something happens and there's been an incident, the parents are immediately called. Before any action, whether it be a detention or a suspension, the parents are called. And if they're not happy with the action at that point, they can then say, I'd like to make an appointment to come in and discuss it with you, correct?
Yeah.
And this is all also laid out in the student handbook?
Yes, it is.
Which every student has a copy of the student handbook. I'm not sure, is it still on the website, the student handbook? I'm not sure.
Right now we're in the
Yeah,
middle of
I'm not sure if
transferring,
it
so I don't
is.
want to say what might not be true.
But every student
They do
gets
have that booklet.
Exactly, every student gets it. And just from personal experience, myself, with 3 kids going through the district who were angels, and nothing ever happened. But when something perhaps might have happened, I did get a copy of whatever the infraction was for that student. So there is a clear-cut process for the families involved. And even if the student is 18, if it's a high school student and they're 18, their parent guardians are still called, just in case.
Much of the child.
Right, to their dismay. Yes.
So when we transfer to the new website, the student handbook will be on that website, and in that student handbook, there's a disciplinary policy?
Every student has a copy of the student handbook.
Yeah, if it's not.
Have you seen it, Carol? Have you seen the handbook?
Will it be on the website?
Every student has a copy of the student handbook, so the fact that is it there or not is rather a misnomer. I want to tell you that yes, that'll be on the website, yes, all the policies will be on the website. My problem is I can't tell you when, because it's a while to get it up. So I don't want to sit here and say, yes, it will be, and then have that go up and 2 weeks later you say, well, you said it was going to be there, and it's not. We're trying to get everything up as soon as we can in terms of policies, student regulation. A lot of the student discipline regulations are already up there. But
And then more generally speaking, if the concern is about racial or ethnic disparities in discipline, what would be the process there? Is that also, again, a conversation with the principal or vice principal, principal, superintendent, or is that a different process?
that precludes an assumption that I'm not willing to discuss at this time, knowing the background of the case and how much I really object to some of the suppositions. I think like everything else, if it goes to the principal and the parent isn't happy, then of course, like every other issue, bring it forward, bring it up. But quite often, I think we have to be cognizant of the children involved and make sure we're doing what they and their parents prefer to be done. And that's a factor that's been missing in a lot of our recent issues. Because, I don't want to get into it. But some of the things where, there's been quite a bit of concern, which is justified concern, and we also had the anger and the concern, a voice of displeasure. But many of the people never bothered talking to the child nor the parents and asked what they would like to be done. And I think we have to use the great civility and give the benefit to the parents to make sure that if we have a cause, we're following the wishes of the parent for that child too, rather than use the child in a way that the parents and the child might not want to be used. Complicated, but I'm just trying to explain. That's why the shades of trying to make these things. But absolutely, and there's also an affirmative action guide. It's part of the handbook, and that should be followed. But I would say the best way is meet with the vice principal. If you're displeased with the answer, go to the principal. And then if that doesn't work, come to me. And it's a common occurrence. I don't mind it at all. I like to, sometimes a fresh set of eyes helps. And I don't decide on the part of the student or the administrator or the teacher. We just try to let the facts lead us. Somebody's always going to be unhappy, but that's the way we try to handle it. But it is difficult if it's not.
I have a fairly naive question then to ask. If a parent is making a case that there's one race that's being picked on more than another race, wouldn't they have to also know all of the other races of all of the other students that had been disciplined in order to say that? To compare one amount to another amount? And they wouldn't, unless the parent was in the school district working in the office, they wouldn't know that. How would they know that?
Well, they can make that claim, and then it would be the school's job to investigate and show.
But why would you make that claim not knowing the rest of it?
Well, we make claims all the time, not knowing.
I know, but that would be a foolish claim to make. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
The biggest problem with these kinds of issues is many times it's a matter of perception. And sometimes everyone is completely legitimate, upfront, 100%, but the perceptions of the case are different depending on the receiver. And that's what gives us a chance to go ahead and
I also think
investigate.
that's something we need to teach our children not to do. As parents and as the adults, we want to teach our kids not to do that, not to start making assumptions. We want to teach them, don't jump to conclusions. Don't put people into classifications. Don't try to say things like that. So,
But when there is a perception, then there should be steps where the district can correct.
Well, that's where you would individually deal with that person who comes to you with the problem, saying, I think you're picking on my child for whatever reasons, and then you're going to meet with that person. But